The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It painted the city in streaks of silver and shadow, blurring the line between what was real and what was imagined. Cars crawled along slick streets, their headlights cutting through fog like knives. Somewhere in the maze of alleys behind the neon-glowing shops, a figure moved with unnatural precision, slipping through darkness as though it had been carved out of it. He didn't know who or what was following him, but he could feel it. The hairs at the back of his neck prickled, his pulse quickened, and every instinct screamed for him to run. But he stayed. He had to see it through. He always had to see it through. A scream shattered the distant hum of the city, high-pitched, ragged, desperate. It echoed off brick walls and metal fire escapes, reverberating through the alley like a warning. He paused. That scream wasn't random. It was meant for him. He had been warned once before. He hadn't listened. Tonight he would not make the same mistake. The alley opened into a wider street where the neon of a flickering sign cast red and blue light across puddles. His shadow stretched behind him, twisting unnaturally as if mocking him. The footsteps came again, closer now but still invisible. The city seemed to hold its breath. He glanced over his shoulder. Nothing. Only rain. Only shadows. Only the quiet hum of distant traffic. And then a whisper, soft it could have been imagined, slithered through the air. You can't hide. He froze. Every nerve in his body screamed. The whisper had come from nowhere, and yet it was everywhere. His mind raced. He had seen things that weren't there. He had heard things that weren't real. But this was different. This felt like reality bleeding into nightmare. He ran. The sound behind him multiplied, feet pounding, whispers overlapping, each one a threat, a promise. He turned a corner and collided with a figure shrouded in darkness. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe, but its presence pressed against him, heavy, suffocating. You were warned, it said, and the voice was not human, not entirely. There was something ancient in it, something that had seen the city rise and fall 1,000 times, something that had been waiting for him all along. He stumbled back. His hand brushed against something wet. Blood? His blood? Or someone else's? He couldn't tell. The figure tilted its head. Its face remained hidden, but he felt its gaze piercing through him, reading every fear, a regret. You will make the choice, it said, and there will be no turning back. The words hung in the air like a shroud. He wanted to run, but the alley had twisted behind him. The exit he had just passed was gone. The city had shifted, or perhaps he had. Panic clawed at his chest. He fell to his knees. Please, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. I don't want this. A hand appeared from the shadows, cold as ice, gripping his shoulder. He jerked back. The hand was gone, replaced by the figure standing a few feet away, watching. Watching, always watching, always watching. Said. Not anymore. The world around him began to warp. Neon lights bled into each other, forming grotesque shapes. The sound of rain became a roar, deafening, drowning out everything. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the city went silent. He was alone, or maybe he wasn't. From the shadows, a small flickering screen appeared. On it, images of people he knew, people he had failed, people he would fail again flashed in rapid succession. Their eyes stared into him, accusing, pleading, warning. And beneath the images, a single word appeared, glowing in red. Warning in red, warning, he screamed, and then the world went black. The blackness lingered for a moment, oppressive and complete, and then his eyes fluttered open. He wasn't in the alley anymore. The figure stood, fluid and impossibly fast, moving closer with every step. The kaleidoscopic mask shifted, forming words he could almost read. Survive or perish then. Without warning, the floor beneath him vanished. He fell into darkness, tumbling endlessly, the countdown echoing in his mind. And when he landed, it was in another place entirely, an apartment he recognized but had never entered, filled with people he had loved, people he had failed. Their eyes glimmered with fear and accusation, and he understood with a cold, sinking certainty. This was only the beginning. He stumbled through the apartment, each step echoing off walls that shouldn't exist. The familiar layout twisted unnaturally. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. The doors warped, leading to rooms that seemed simultaneously his own memories and distortions of them. He glanced at the clock on the wall. It spun backward, then forward, erratically. Every tick of the second hand felt like a hammer striking his chest. Voices whispered behind him, soft, almost mocking. He turned, but the rooms were empty. Furniture shifted subtly when he blinked, shadows pooling in corners that had none. Panic surged. His breathing was sharp, ragged. He pressed his hands to his ears, but the whispers grew louder, faster, overlapping. You cannot save them. You cannot save yourself, warning. A sudden metallic click made him freeze. From the shadows, a figure emerged. Tall, angular movements, precise and deliberate. Its eyes glowed faintly red beneath a hood, and its voice cut through the cacophony like a blade. The time is not your ally chosen. He recoiled. I don't understand. What do you want from me? The figure stepped closer, and the floor beneath them groaned. It is not about what we want. It is about what must be done. You were chosen because you are the only one who can make the impossible choice. He shook his head, desperate. I've done enough. I've already lost. Why me? The figure paused, tilting its head. Because you still have the capacity to act, and yet you hesitate. Hesitation will destroy everything. Suddenly, the walls around him began to bleed light. Thin streams of red, green, and blue, swirling into each other like liquid prisms. Images flashed within them. Fire engulfing buildings, people screaming in panic, shadows swallowing entire streets. Each image stabbed at him, a reminder of the stakes he had never fully understood. A small metallic device appeared at his feet. He looked down. A glowing orb, pulsing in rhythm with the countdown he now understood, had begun ticking the moment he first saw the figure. He picked it up. Instantly, a surge of knowledge, alien and overwhelming, entered his mind. He saw maps of the city, grids of locations marked in crimson, movements of unknown agents, pathways only visible when he thought in patterns he didn't yet comprehend. This is your map, the figure said, your guide. But it is not infallible. Every decision alters reality, every hesitation costs lives. He staggered back, clutching the orb. I can't, this is too much. You can, the figure said, stepping closer. You must. The warning was not for you alone, it was for all of them. 72 hours remain. Make your choice. The apartment dissolved around him, replaced by a cityscape that flickered between reality and nightmare. Streets twisted impossibly, buildings bending like origami. He realized he was standing at the edge of a rooftop, wind whipping through his hair. Below, chaos reigned, cars overturned, flames consuming structures, and people screaming as shadows crept along the streets, consuming everything in their path. The orb pulsed faster. He understood. It was pointing, guiding, but not telling him what to do. He had to decide. Every pathway, he imagined, changed the city below, and the slightest hesitation amplified the destruction. He shook his head, desperate. I've done enough. I've already lost. Why me? The figure paused, tilting its head. Because you still have the capacity to act, and yet you hesitate. Hesitation will destroy everything. Suddenly, the walls around him began to bleed light. Thin streams of red, green, and blue swirling into each other like liquid prisms. Images flashed within them. Fire engulfing buildings, people screaming in panic, shadows swallowing entire streets. Each image stabbed at him, a reminder of the stakes he had never fully understood. A small metallic device appeared at his feet. He looked down. A glowing orb, pulsing in rhythm with the countdown he now understood, had begun ticking the moment he first saw the figure. He picked it up. Instantly, a surge of knowledge, alien and overwhelming, entered his mind. He saw maps of the city, grids of locations marked in crimson, movements of unknown agents, pathways only visible when he thought in patterns he didn't yet comprehend. This is your map, the figure said. We'll guide. But it is not infallible. Every decision alters reality. Every hesitation costs lives. He staggered back, clutching the orb. Why? I can't, this is too much. Oh, you can, the figure said, stepping closer. You must. The warning was not for you alone. It was for all of them. 72 hours remain. Make your choice. The apartment dissolved around him, replaced by a cityscape that flickered between reality and nightmare. Streets twisted impossibly, buildings bending like origami. He realized he was standing at the edge of a rooftop, wind whipping through his hair. Below, chaos reigned, cars overturned, flames consuming structures, and people screaming as shadows crept along the streets, consuming everything in their path. The orb pulsed faster. He understood. It was pointing, guiding, but not telling him what to do. He had to decide. Every pathway he imagined changed the city below, and the slightest hesitation amplified the destruction. And then he saw her, someone he hadn't expected to find. A woman standing alone in the middle of the chaos, untouched by the shadows. Her eyes met his, calm, unwavering, but her lips moved. forming words he could hear without sound. But don't fail. He leapt, not off the building, but into the chaos below. The world distorted around him as he fell, twisting and reshaping as the orb guided him. Shadows lunged, shapes formed from nightmares, testing his reflexes and resolve. Every choice he made, left or right, run or hide, affected the city. Each wrong move brought screams, fire, and more destruction. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time no longer obeyed logic. His body ached, his mind burned with the weight of decisions. He began to understand the truth. The warnings, the whispers, the figure, the awe. It was all a test of moral calculus, of human resolve under extreme pressure. He wasn't just running to survive. He was running to decide who survived. He collapsed in an alley, soaked in rain and blood, panting. The orb floated above his hand, pulsing gently. He could feel the connection now. Every life, every choice, every outcome. He understood the meaning of a chosen. It wasn't power, it wasn't protection. It was responsibility beyond comprehension, a burden no one should carry. And yet, he had no choice. From the shadows, a voice whispered closer than before. You've begun, but the real trial has only just started. Above him, the city burned. And in that burning, he realized something terrifying. The countdown hadn't just begun for him. It had begun for everyone. The rain pelted his face, the orb pulsing in his hand like a heartbeat he could feel in his chest. He staggered through the twisted streets, the city folding in on itself as if reality had become liquid. Neon signs stretched impossibly high, their letters dripping into the puddles at his feet. Shadows writhed along walls, whispering secrets he didn't want to hear but couldn't ignore. He paused at the corner of a collapsed building and watched a man run past, screaming as shadows reached for him, engulfing his form before he could escape. The scene flashed before his eyes again, an instant replay, faster this time. He realized with horror that every action he had taken, even minor hesitations, had ripples that caused destruction and death. The orb hummed, urging him onward. Ahead, a narrow street appeared, strangely untouched by the chaos around it. In the center, a child stood, small, fragile, staring directly at him. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was an uncanny calmness to her presence. Come, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the storm. He hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. Yet the orb pulsed stronger, glowing like a beacon. He stepped forward, his boots splashing through puddles, and as he reached her, the world twisted again. The cityscape bent, cracked buildings folding like paper. He felt himself pulled down into a subterranean network that seemed to stretch endlessly beneath the city. The child ran ahead, her small figure leading him through tunnels illuminated by faint phosphorescent light. Shapes moved along the walls, grotesque forms with too many limbs, too many eyes. They reached for him, but the orb projected a barrier of light, pushing them back. He ran faster, heart hammering, muscles burning. Finally, they emerged into a chamber unlike anything he had seen. It was vast, circular, with walls covered in shifting symbols. In the center floated a platform of light. Standing on it was the figure, the one who had called him chosen. Around it swirled holographic images of the city, grids overlaid with red markers, moving points representing lives and events. You've come far, the figure said, voice calm but echoing unnaturally through the chamber. But this is where choices become consequences. The child looked at him, eyes imploring. Then she vanished, dissolving into particles of light. Panic clawed at him. Wait, where did she go? The figure raised a hand. She is a projection of possibility. Every life is a projection until you act. You are the fulcrum. Your decisions weigh upon existence itself. He swallowed hard. I don't know if I can do this. You can, the figure said, but you must understand. There is no guidance beyond what the orb gives. You will be tested. Each trial will push you to the edge of what is humanly possible. The chamber shifted. Suddenly, he was standing in the middle of a burning street, people screaming, shadows looming. A man lay trapped beneath rubble, a woman screaming for help, children running in terror. The orb glowed intensely in his hand, pointing in multiple directions at once. The countdown echoed in his mind, 68 hours remaining. He took a deep breath and moved. He pulled debris from the trapped man, dragging him to safety while guiding the woman and children toward a makeshift safe zone. The orb indicated. Every step was a decision, every second a choice that affected the lives around him. He realized the figure's warnings weren't metaphorical. This was real. Lives depended on him. The orb connected him to the city, to the chaos, to the people. Suddenly, the shadows attacked. They surged like living smoke, forming tendrils that lashed out at him. He fought, using the orb as a shield, deflecting the dark forms, each strike consuming energy, sapping strength, but he pressed on. Finally, exhausted, he stumbled into an abandoned subway station, slamming a door behind him. The chaos outside slowed, the shadows dissipating, but only temporarily. He leaned against the wall, panting, soaked hands trembling. The orb floated in front of him, pulsing with a steady, insistent glow. He realized the truth. He could not rest. Every moment of hesitation, every lapse of judgment would cause more death. 72 hours, 68 now, ticking relentlessly toward a conclusion he could not yet comprehend. A voice echoed from the darkness. You are learning. You are beginning to understand the weight of choice. But understanding is only the beginning. To survive, you must do more than act. You must predict. You must see the unseen. You must become the instrument of balance. He swallowed hard. And if I fail? The shadows in the station surged, forming images of destruction, screaming faces, fire consuming the city. A failure is not an option, not for you, not for anyone. Warning, always warning, too late. He pressed forward, heart pounding, orb glowing, mind straining to process multiple outcomes simultaneously. The city outside was a battlefield, and he alone could navigate the chaos. Every choice, every move, every action shaped the future in ways he could not yet fully grasp. He was the chosen, and the countdown had only just begun. He staggered through the subway tunnels, the orb floating ahead of him. Its pulse like a heartbeat he could feel in his chest. The walls of the tunnel twisted and stretched as he moved, as if the city itself were alive, testing him, reshaping reality to break him. The air was thick with dust, and the faint tang of something metallic, blood or decay, he couldn't tell. Suddenly, a door slammed open ahead and a group of figures emerged, silhouetted against the faint light. They didn't speak. They didn't move naturally. Their limbs bent at impossible angles. Their eyes glowed with a sickly green hue, and their presence radiated malice. Shadows clung to them like living smoke, writhing, reaching for him. The orb flared violently in his hand. A wall of light erupted outward, pushing the creatures back. They hissed, recoiling, but did not retreat entirely. One step forward, unnaturally fast, its movements jerky and alien. You cannot stop what is coming, it rasped, voice echoing unnaturally through the tunnel. You are too late, too human. He gritted his teeth. I am the chosen, he said, voice shaking but firm. And I will not fail. The creature lunged. He swung the orb and it collided with the creature's chest. Light exploded, searing his vision. When it cleared, the figure was gone, leaving only a smear of darkness on the floor. He pressed onward, heart hammering, muscles screaming, mind racing. Every step was a choice, every breath a battle against fear and exhaustion. The orb pulsed faster, guiding him deeper into the tunnels. He emerged into a massive chamber unlike anything he had seen. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, vanishing into darkness. Around him, suspended in midair, were fragments of the city, streets, buildings, entire neighborhoods, each one frozen in a moment of chaos. People screamed in silence, frozen mid-motion, shadows creeping over them like waves. In the center of the chamber stood the figure who had called him chosen. Its kaleidoscopic mask reflected the frozen city fragments, twisting them into impossible shapes. You see now, it said, voice calm but omnipresent. This is the consequence of inaction. Every choice you delay, every hesitation, every fear, it ripples outward. The city, the people, all of them are connected to you. He swallowed hard, staring at the frozen city. I don't understand. How can one person? You are not just one person, the figure interrupted. You are the fulcrum, the pivot point. Everything converges through you. You were chosen because you can bear the weight of possibility, but possibility is fragile. You must act decisively, or all is lost. The orb floated higher, its glow illuminating a pathway among the floating city fragments. He realized that the orb wasn't just a guide. It was a map of action, a visual representation of potential outcomes. Every path he could take, every intervention, every choice was displayed before him, glowing faintly. He stepped forward onto the path. The moment he did, one of the frozen fragments shattered, a building crumbled, and a scream echoed, real this time, ripping through the chamber. The shadows surged. Do you see? The figure asked. This is why hesitation kills. You act or you fail. He clenched his fists. He could feel the weight of the city, the lives of thousands pressing on him. He could feel their fear, their hope, their desperation. The orb pulsed with intensity, syncing with his heartbeat, urging him to move, to choose.